it's always good. Try it a second time. And if I have to do it a third and fourth time, I'll do it that way too. So we will make sure I have everything off here so I can have full attention. Let's see. If you have a question, please feel free to write it in the chat as people come into the room. Let me know where you're joining us from too. If you can type in where you're from and where you're joining me, that would be awesome. So I can kind of get some idea. But I just wanted to do a little bit of the live. I had done it about a week and a half ago, and it was fun. And I'm thinking of coming back and doing more lives. So, and maybe even making it a regular thing because I do enjoy it. All right, Sarush, how are you? Good to see you. So as people come in, it's always interesting as the room gets more and more exciting, as more people come in, obviously, and questions come up. So if you do have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. Happy to answer any questions that people have, if I can. If I can't answer it, then I'll let you know that too. There's no reason for me to pretend that I know all the answers. There people are tricking in. Again, if you are just joining me, let me know where you are joining me from. It's always cool to see where people are. And if you're watching this in the restream, I apologize because the first 2 to 3 minutes is not that exciting as people come in. It's only really good when we start answering questions. So if you do have a question, put it in the chat. I'm happy to answer. And we can, Weekender is from Western Washington. Awesome. And Sarush is from New York. It's always cool to see where people. Tony, Panama City, right on. Thanks for hopping in. So I can tell you some things that are happening here. You may have seen some notifications and maybe some posts about my new program or new course that I am creating. I'm creating a course specifically for dads, expectant fathers. So while my other course is for people in the, 2 to 3 kids, 2 to 3 years of age and older, this is going to be for soon-to-be dads. And so David from San Diego, right on. Su Nombre is from San Marcos. Wow, I used to live in San Marcos. That's very close. And Jay Vare from England. Well, cool. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here. If you do have a question, throw it out there. And people talking to each other in the chat, which is also cool. Chu E, Panama City. Cool. Toronto, Graham, right on. So here's a question. From Tony, best way to support the wifey during postpartum. Well, so here's the thing that a lot of us men suffer from is not being very empathetic. And, one of the first things I would say is to talk with your wife about how you can support it. It's oftentimes we look for suggestions because sometimes we don't want them to ask, but part of it is just them knowing that we're there to help them and support them. And so I think that's the first question, because every woman is different. The normal answer of, doing more around the house, helping more with the kids, doing that. But, if she is really going through postpartum, part of that is having that discussion. What I just noticed is that my lighting is off. Half of my lighting is off. We'll get on that. We'll put that on. And so I think part of it is supporting her in all those different ways, but also asking her on what you specifically can do to help. Postpartum is a tough thing. It's tough for anyone involved. So just make sure you're having that communication. And, I know for many women, there is not much specifically that we can say or do. Um, a lot, because whether it is the emotion and the feelings and the hormones and all the other things that they're going through, there's not a lot. It's not like there's magic words you can say and all of a sudden it's fixed. So I think having that communication and her just knowing that you're there to support her can be helpful. Hopefully that helps. Getting some good chats here. Let's see. Brad had mentioned from Vancouver Island, new dad here, 1 month old. Sometimes I find myself feeling really overwhelmed when I get back from a long, stressful workday. Yes, there's not really a question there, but I wanted to state it because it's very true. And for other guys to know that it is overwhelming. We have a lot of stress going on in our day, and that's okay to say it. It's okay to admit it. You don't have to be a Superman all the time. It is difficult to manage all of those things, especially when the child is young. And if you have a wife who's going through postpartum, or you have family members, dealing with all kinds of stuff. So I can empathize with you there. It is not an easy thing. David, expecting father. Awesome. Let's see. Oh, here they're coming in now. Makes it hard. Let's see. Weekender asked, I'm a dad of a 2-year-old girl and starting for a second. What considerations should I be making in prep for our second child that would differ from the first? That's a great question. The difference, what should I be making in prep? Well, I think there's a lot that goes into making sure that the expectations that you have on your second child, you don't realize that you have differences that you inadvertently put different responsibilities, different pressures, different demands, different thoughts on a second child. And I'll give you an example. You have a child that is 5 and another one that is 2 or 3. And the 5-year-old gets to do something, whatever it is, gets to go to the park or something, or is learning how to drink out of a cup or, something. Well, the 2-year-old's watching. And so the 2-year-old is either going to try it or wants to be part of it or gets to do it as well. Whereas when your 5-year-old was 2, they didn't get to do that. They didn't partake in that activity. So we think that we are treating our 2 children the same. They're from the same parents or in the same environment, but it's not the case. Oftentimes, the second child has different expectations, and the same, or what also happens is that the first child has other expectations that are on them. I was just around an older and younger sibling. Another dad had older and younger siblings, and I heard the dad say, go take care of your sister. Go watch your sister. Now, that's a very common thing. They're years apart, but that is additional pressure and additional responsibility that is put on that older child that the younger child is not going to have. And so there are these nuances of older and younger siblings. So I think some of the preparation should be around being conscious of that and not trying to do that. And so, there's going to be benefits and negatives from having those two, those differences in age. But that's one of the biggest things, I think. Hello, Brad. Hello, Eric. Eric, you're saying, I'm doing a great job. No question, though. That's awesome. I'll take it. I enjoy hearing that. Sunombre said, I like the squares in your background. What other furniture do you recommend for a couple about to have our first baby? None. Save your money. Don't get furniture. Wait until you have the child and decide what it is that you need. In fact, I have a video that's coming out maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure. I just looked at my assistant. Maybe the next day. We're editing it right now. That talks about that, about not buying things. I am not someone who's going to recommend you get stuff and spend money. I'm going to be the opposite and say, you realize what you need once the baby is there. And if you say, you know what, it would be really nice to have a comfortable chair here as I'm holding the baby, then go get the comfortable chair. What happens is that we go, oh, we need this kind of chair and we need this bassinet and we need this thing. And you end up using things or buying and using things that you actually may not have chosen, but because they're there, you then use them. And so unless you have a very specific thing that you know you are going to want and need, two different things, wants and needs, which I talk about in this video, I wouldn't suggest that. I would say, wait. And then you say, you know what would be really cool because the baby is doing this, and then buy the furniture. Save your money. So that's mine. Jay Ver asks, is there such a thing as postpartum depression for dads? Yes. In fact, I have a video about that. You can search on the channel, postpartum depression for dads. The difference is that we show it differently than women. Women actually or typically are down more or so. We will often show it with anger, addictions, all kinds of things, alcohol, some drugs, porn, whatever. Men will deal with the postpartum depression differently than moms do. And so, for some dads, that might just be being down, but there are other things that happen. I talk with so many men, and the first question that comes out, I said, well, did you, after the baby's born and they're upset or they have some sort of, have you increased your alcohol intake? And 8 out of 10 times it's yes. Or some kind of substance or something. Now, I can tell you, I recall as well having more alcohol when my children were young, for sure, than as they get older. And looking back, I kind of wish I didn't. As things changed and I learned about, parenting and stuff, I backed off on that. But I wish I would have done it earlier just for mood and everything else. But that was for me. That was a big thing. So postpartum depression absolutely is real. Let's see. Dinesh, I'm not sure if I have an answer to this one. I'm reading that. Oh, wow. There's a lot of questions here. Dinesh had asked, my 7-month-old keeps wiggling in her cot and banging her head on the side of the cot. We don't want to put bumpers because we read that as a risk of SIDS. Any suggestions? I would talk to your pediatrician at 7 months old of whether it is still, I'm not sure of the age, because here's the thing I want to preface is that I'm not a baby expert and definitely not a sleep expert. I'm more of a dad expert and I deal with the dads. But I would talk to him about potentially swaddling, if that is still okay at 7 months, to where you can confine the baby a little bit more. But I would want to get very specific instructions on that from your pediatrician or from a sleep expert. So I might suggest that and talking with them. Going to be a new dad in a couple of weeks. This is from J-Pop. Sorry. Going to be a new dad in a couple of weeks. My company just changed its policy to 6 weeks paid off for paternity leave. Although I'm so happy, worried about taking so much time off. Any recommendations? No, because everyone is different. And I can sit here and say that I think, paternity leave is the most wonderful thing. Take off that much time, enjoy the time with your child. And I would say that. However, I did a video about that and I actually got a decent amount of feedback from dads who said, that is not what I would want. I feel very good and productive when I'm working. I love my work. So me taking off is actually me missing that. And especially in the beginning, now you're helping your significant other. There's other things, but not for every guy is being home the most enjoyable thing. And so I got that feedback, which kind of woke me up a little bit because I was always thinking in my head, like, oh, take all the time you can, especially if it's paid. Um, but that's an individual decision. And I think for some guys, like I had talked with a couple of gentlemen that had said, no, they wish that they didn't take as much time off, or that they would have spaced it out a little bit more. Is like maybe work a couple days and then take a couple days off, or, and maybe that is something where if working is still very fulfilling and that's part of it, that's okay. Now, what I will say is remember the phrase, nobody on their deathbed said that they should have spent more time at the office. Nobody's ever said that. So you do want to consider the idea that if it's something because you love it and you enjoy it, that's one reason. The other would be is if you just feel pressure because you're going to lose something, or you're not going to get some, you're going to lose some touch, or you're going to lose a deal, lose deals, whatever. I don't know. That's for an individual evaluation to take that. But I can tell you at the end of the day and at the end of your life, you're not going to wish you spent more time at the office. So individual thing. So Fish Stick, you're in the middle of giving birth right now, waiting for my wife to go back for the C-section. That's pretty cool. In the middle of waiting and you're on live chat with us. That is cool. But I'm guessing because you can't go in. A lot of guys had mentioned that they can't go in. Any tips on keeping her calm is the follow-up question. Breathing. I mean, I think that's the best thing that you can do is breathing. Do slow breaths, deep breaths. I think that is something. And also just reassurance that it's going to be okay, and hold her hand if you can, if you're allowed in there. Brad, glad you got a lot out of the videos. Andrew, any tips on introducing a newborn to the family dog? Yes. That's an interesting question. I get that one actually. So there's a couple things you can do. Get the dog a gift from the baby. Same thing you would do if you had a sibling. So get a huge bone or something that the dog loves, put it with the baby, and have the baby give that dog the bone. And then the other thing is giving the dog tremendous amount of affection and attention when the baby first comes home. Because, especially depending on the temperament of your pet, they get very jealous. They get, but a lot of times they're very, they're very interested and inquisitive. And obviously you just have to be careful. But I would say get the dog a present. That's the best way. Message redacted. There's a lot of redacted messages here. Is somebody logging in as me? Let's see. Raymond, baby is about to start daycare for the first time, 3 months old. Any general tips? So I have to say, I didn't have a baby that went to daycare, so I don't know that I can specifically. Maybe there's some other people that can chime in and say, our children didn't go to daycare. What we ended up finding out based on costs and things is we ended up getting someone to come to the house for a couple of hours. And that ended up being just, worked out for us. And so I don't know that I can give specific advice because we didn't do it. So I don't want to give advice on something I didn't do. AO Flocka, expecting first baby in January. What's the survival kit? I'm definitely feeling the doom of end of life as I know it. That's not true. I mean, not saying you don't feel that way, but I'm saying it's not going to be the doom and end of your life. We have, as you can see from this channel, I wouldn't start a channel about being a dad unless I thought it was an extremely rewarding and enjoyable thing. It doesn't come with being hard, doesn't come with being difficult, and children can be difficult for sure. And it tests you. But if you can think of it as a journey that you're going on of personal growth, it's an amazing one. And it really is about your mindset. And this is, I in my parenting program that I take people through, a huge part of that, I have a huge sections about it, is your mindset as a father. And how you approach it and how you think of things affects everything. And, I'll give you an example. It's like when you're changing diapers, for many men, they think, oh, I got to change another diaper. Well, think of it as an opportunity to interact with your child. That is a time when you get to interact with the child and possibly like give them a little toy to play with so that they're distracted. It really is about how you think about the things that you're doing. And it's the same thing with your partner. And it's the same thing about your work. It's all of that. Our mindset affects how we show up. And so that's something to work on. It's not something that happens right away. It's not even, I don't like the term like positive thinking and such, but there are tactics. Look at some of my previous videos and think and look at the different ways that you can improve your mindset, because I can tell you when I shifted my mindset, my life changed, my life improved, my relationship with my wife improved, the relationship with my children improved. And so it's something that it's not hocus pocus. It's like, you actually have to work at it and you have to remind yourself and you have to, practice that gratitude and practice how you are looking at things. It's finding the positive in a lot of the things that sometimes we think are negative. What can I learn from this? What can I get out of this? If you're a religious person, often people will say, well, this is the work of, their being. And so it must be the will that this is my destiny. And so, that's a way of looking at things in a different light to really come out in a positive way. And so I think that that's important. That was a long way of saying something I probably could have said in 2 seconds. Let's see. B joining from Connecticut, right on. Kavan, I don't know how I'm pronouncing this. My daughter was born 9/3, father-in-law passed 9/8. I'm struggling with being the supportive husband and the caring dad and grieving at the same time. Any advice? That is hard. I would say go to grief counseling. I did it. My daughter, I think she wasn't even 2 or so, and my mother passed away, who I was extremely close to, and it was very, very hard. It's very hard to be focused and such. What I will say, and I learned through the grieving process and also at the same time was going through my parenting training, was it was okay to allow my family and my children to see me grieve. We often try to portray that like we can do anything. And I said that sort of in the beginning of this video, that like that we somehow, and whether it's society, all kinds of things, that we have to be this Superman. And it's okay to admit that you can't do it all. And you certainly can't do it all the time. So, I don't know that this is possible, but you're giving yourself, let's say, a couple days to grieve. And then you're going to say, okay, now I'm going to focus on my children for, a day or two and do that. And so every day we get to choose where we want to put our effort and our time and such. And, the grief is important. Your children are important. Your wife is important, but you can't do it all at the same time perfectly. So you kind of have to just go with the flow and know that you are doing what you can. And in your mind, start over each day and say, you know what? I'm just not going to be able to grieve today because there's a lot of stuff I got to do. And you got to just put it behind you or whatever, because you got to get stuff done. But then on the other days, you know what? I think I want to be alone because I feel really sad and I just want to grieve. And that's okay. Or another one is, you know what? Let's go out on a date. You and your wife, you go out on a date and you just spend that time together. It is hard. What I can tell you is that, grief counseling for me helped tremendously, and it got better. years later, I think about my mother every day. It's been, I, I don't know. I don't keep track of the time. That's what's interesting. I often forget the years. I think it's been 10 years now. I think about her every single day, but it's different. I think about the positives. But just the other day, I was talking with my daughter and some pictures came up and I got really emotional because it was my daughter as a baby and my son and and my daughter was there with me and she put her arms around me and hugged me and she knew it's like I wasn't trying to hide it. They knew that I loved my mother very much. And so it wasn't something I was trying to be strong or anything else. I allowed myself, I always, after going to counseling, allow myself to grieve. And I think that's what's important too, is it's important that you grieve. But it's also important that you're there when you can be, and so that process, there's no perfect answer for that. All right, let's see. Gordo, any tips on putting the baby to sleep faster at night? The one thing I can say is have a routine. I'm not a baby sleep expert, but the things that we did that worked is have a routine, same time every night, and preferably earlier. Try earlier. Our children went to bed at around 6:30 p.m. I don't understand how people have their baby go to sleep at 9 or whatever. You have no time to do anything. We put her at 6:30, maybe 7, but we started at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Bath time, pajamas, reading, then eating, whatever it is. And we started this routine. And so the baby just became, familiar with the routine and that seemed to work pretty well. Brian had asked about son's 2 years and 2 months, any potty training tips, but then you followed up with using cloth diapers. I didn't use cloth diapers, so I'm not sure I can give you the potty training tricks. And full disclosure, my wife handled all of that because at the time she was home. And so he had especially for my son, no diaper, and she just followed him around and did that. My daughter watched my son because she was 2 years younger, and he basically helped potty train her. It was hilarious. She's like, no, he would say, no, you got to go on the potty. And he would help her do it. And so it worked out. I don't know that I'm a good example on how to teach somebody that. Maybe I'll have to have my wife on at some point. But Gordo, congratulations. Son was born on Saturday, November 13th, just 4 days old. Wow, that's cool. S. West had asked, what are you doing as a father that your father didn't do when you were growing up that you think will benefit your children? Well, I think just being more mindful of my parenting. I have a wonderful father, and he's older now and is dealing with some health issues, some dementia, but he was a wonderful father, and I had great parents, and so the difference is that the way that my dad interacted, and what I remember, he was fairly affectionate, but was very participative. He went to all of our events and games, and he was very present with many of the things. And so while he didn't communicate in the way about emotional intelligence and this, it was a little bit more old school in that way. My mother was the one who really, it was about communication and all that. So maybe that's just a little bit of a difference, is just generational. But I've gotten so much from my father about being present and the affection and so much of that stuff. So I think just, I'm just, because I teach this and because I have this, I'm constantly mindful of the things that I say, how I say it, what I do. That's probably what. Brad, I'm not sure I can give you financial advice. I'm not qualified to do that, but is somebody hacking the account? somebody's writing that they hacked our account. I don't know what that is or how. But that's okay. You can write messages or something. Somebody's writing that they've hacked the account. Cool. So it looks like something got hacked. I'm not sure how, but all right. Let's see. I have to end this anyway. So if I did get hacked, yeah, I don't know. Colin had asked, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently or focused on more during the pregnancy? Yeah, I would have been more in the moment and enjoying the pregnancy itself versus I probably would have just been more thinking about the present moment instead of worrying about what I was going to do and how things were going to be in the future. So, I was always thinking about, oh, I can't wait until I do this with my child, or I can't wait until we get to do this. And instead, not being present for the actual situations. And I think it's cool to think about the future, but it's really cool to be in the present. So, yeah, some people that's fine. They can do whatever they want. I'm not worried about that. Hey, if there's a dad university and a person that wanted to use my logo and my account, then you know what? They can do that. Whatever. It's things like that. It's like, it doesn't bother me. It's somebody who's looking for attention or somebody who's looking for something. I'm not, that's cool. If anything, it's more comments and the algorithm likes comments. So, think of that as a good thing. That person's helping me. Brian, you're from Minnesota. Awesome. Let's see what else we got. So 9 Deuce had asked, I didn't grow up with a father present. How do you teach your kids about the importance of saving money at a young age? You do it by example. Kids really learn by example. But I can tell you, like, I've made a lot of effort to, teach my kids about money and do things. It depends on your philosophies and, your philosophies you're trying to transfer to them. The best way to do that is by showing them. And even at a young age, just teaching them about money and how it works and such. And I'm not a financial expert, but part of it is, they see the values of things. They have their own accounts in which they buy things. And that started very early. We have, their own cards, which are, parent protected. But they can go see their balance and they'll know how much they have to spend and they know how much they need to save. And so, it's a balancing act. But here's the question that I often ask people. It's like, are you practicing what you preach? These systems of telling kids that they have to save, 30% of what they make or whatever. If you're not doing that, it's kind of bad to teach your child, these tactics that you're not doing yourself. So my short answer is just do it and then show them what you're doing. Let's see. Jorge, I watched a lot of your videos and sub to your podcast. Jorge Mendoza, great to have you here. Going to turn 1 December 25th. Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you for subscribing. And if you guys aren't subscribed, make sure you do. That helps. It gets the notifications. It makes sure click on that button. Every person that is on YouTube asks you to subscribe, and there's reasons for that, obviously. It gives you the notifications that when I upload a new video, you will see it. Christopher asks, how do you manage your time better with a newborn 3 months old? Start looking at what your priorities are. I would guess, I don't know you, I'm not judging it, but what happens is we often think that we don't have time, and there's things that we are wasting time on. Social media, watching TV, all kinds of things. And I have a video on that, or a couple videos on that, but it's basically take inventory of your time. I mean, map out and write out exactly what you are spending time on. For some people that's not. They come home, they have a second job, they do stuff. You just have to make choices and priorities about, what is the most important for you, and communicate with your partner about that. Like, I'll give you an example. Like when my son was first born, my wife and I were avid exercise, we'd go to the gym and do stuff. We both said, hey, this is something that's still important to us. We'll switch off. I got up early. If the baby got up, she took care of it. If and vice versa, when I came back from the gym, I was watching the baby. She got to go to the gym. And it was working that out. And yes, there were things that we were no longer able to do because limited time. I maybe didn't hang out with my friends as much, or I didn't get to go to, some other events that I maybe would have gone to before. But you start, and even Luke has wrote here, video games. You really have to take inventory and be honest with yourself about what is a priority and what's most important. And if spending that time with your child is important, put it on the calendar. Literally make an appointment to do that. And we put stuff for our business on the calendar. We should put our personal lives on the calendar too. Chris, I'm a single dad and my daughter is 10. How do I talk to her about puberty? I would suggest getting a book. And we did this, and it worked really well. There's a bunch of different books, and buy one from Amazon for $7 or $10 or whatever. Buy a couple of them. Read the book yourself first, or whatever. See if it's it's good, if it's get good reviews, and then what you do is you actually read it together. Say, hey, we're going to read a chapter a night or a chapter a week or whatever, because I wanted to go over it. And what it was is the book provided, then after you read a chapter, you discuss it. And so what it was, instead of just like you having to come up with a bunch of stuff, this was really helpful for us of like, okay, it talks about how your body's changing, and the book talks about it. And it's in a, I'll have to look at what the book was, which one, but it talks about it in a good way. And then, the questions then come up and you say, hey, have you felt that way? Or what do you think about that? That's usually, and then, so the book helps facilitate the conversation. And I had felt that was a great way to do it. Someone else had recommended that to me. And so we just did that, and we talked about it in the book, there's hundreds of books. And so, whatever you think is uncomfortable, just know that they're probably much more uncomfortable than you, although it depends on how they were brought up. Like, my wife is a nurse. And so she's always been very open and honest and such about the body and puberty and everything in between. So for my kids, it wasn't a big leap, because they've kind of always, have done that. But for me, having the conversation like with my son, or that really helped, because I was like, okay, well, what do I need to talk about? So Chris is asking, well, how do you start the topic? I think you buy the book, you read the book, and then you say to your daughter, hey, listen, I know that you're getting older, more mature. Things are going to start to happen to you. I got this book. No, I would not ask for her to wait for her to ask you. I would keep the information simple so that you don't have to get too technical. But I say, it's her, even before, knowing that she can feel comfortable and safe coming to you with questions without judgment. So then you will get the book and you'll say, hey, listen, I got this book and I thought maybe we could read it together, because and you can be honest. You can say, you know what? I'm learning how to communicate these things to you. You're going to be the one going through them. So why don't we learn this together? And Chris, I'm sorry, Chris's wife had passed away. And that is a great way to just be honest and open. We often worry about like how it's going to be presented or such, but I wouldn't wait for her. I wouldn't wait for her to ask. I would, at least on the surface stuff and some of the things, for her to start thinking about that there's going to be changes in her physical body. There might be emotions that she's going to feel, and so that you kind of do those intros. And I think that that's a great way to do it. So Luke asks, I've been scared to death ever since I found out that we were going to have a boy. And it comes from how my dad treated my brothers and I when I were young. Yeah, that's a valid fear. But the fact that you're thinking about it is a clear indication that you're not going to hopefully repeat the behavior and whatever that is. If you do feel really scared, you might want to seek someone professional. A professional that you can talk to and that you can do that. What I will say is, the only way to get over fear is to do it. You can think about it all you want. You can talk about it. You can read about it. But the only way to do it is to just move forward. And if you still have a hard time making friends with guys, I would say just go, you're not going to grow without getting out of your comfort zone. So make a new friend, make a new friend as a guy, and just force yourself to move slowly. That may be just saying hi. It may just be like, doing something social or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to go from 0 to 100, take baby steps. I was listening to, if you guys may be familiar with Jordan Peterson, you can look up him on YouTube, and he was talking about that, where, people that are really fearful, you just take small little steps. So instead of like huge things that you're trying to accomplish, just try something little, try having a conversation with another guy, just about something, or, take these little baby steps. Hopefully that helps. And I'm sorry that you went through that abuse, but it doesn't mean that you have to repeat that. For sure you don't. So everybody, so here's what I'm thinking. I love this. I love doing the lives. I do want to do these more. Let me know in the comments if you feel like these lives are something that you could visit on a regular basis, because I'd love to possibly do them more often, and looking at the possibility of doing it on a regular schedule. So like, I don't know, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific or something like that, because the randomness of it is a little bit difficult for me. So I'd almost like to have a schedule. So let me know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe. I want to thank everybody. This is always great. I love coming on and hearing what people are doing and doing that. And so that's it. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. If I don't come on again, have a great holiday, and I will speak with you soon. And don't forget, there's a new video that's going to come out in a day or two. We're final editing right now as we speak, and we're going to probably be here late. So, all right, everybody, take care. Bye.